Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Former Athlete Society. I'm Adam Ringler, and we are running through another live accountability call. I know how these things go, right? Sometimes we've got a packed house watching this live. Sometimes, hey, it's just you and me. We're on YouTube, we're on the Blueprint, we're on Instagram, but that's exactly why we do this. Because even if nobody else is going to show up, we have to show up for ourselves, right? And that's half the battle. That's the whole point, right, of our group, of our community, this Former Athlete Society. We've carved out this space for people who once had a jersey on their back and had a schedule in front of them, whether it's Teamworks or in our days, we had pencil and paper schedules, right? We would print them out. But that schedule was built around practice, around lifts, around film sessions, around the scoreboard, around travel schedules. And it isn't flashy, but the discipline still matters. So today, I want to treat this call like we're sitting in a locker room, right? After practice. Our shoes are untied and we're just chopping it up. We're just talking shop. There's no highlight reels. There's no pretending everything is perfect. Former athletes know the grind better than anybody else. We've been through it. We've gone through the early mornings and the bus rides and the flights and all of this, the airports, the busy airports, right? And now we're just here trying to have a healthier lifestyle that keeps us healthy and strong and sharp when there's no coach blowing a whistle like me, right? Just getting out of it and just doing that. So today, I'm going to bring us 5 new topics to keep us moving forward to think about some of the things that we can apply from a collegiate strength and conditioning perspective to you. They're different from anything else that I've covered before. Hopefully, they're fresh ideas, maybe to tighten up your habits a little bit, right? To keep you sharp and to keep making progress outside of the arena and stay intentional about your day, especially now that your eligibility is exhausted. So we're going to talk about things like managing your glucose so that your energy doesn't spike up and down and leave you feeling irritated and hangry, right? We're going to talk about how the mindset that separates people who, can't start, the ones who can't finish, the ones and the rare exception of few who don't know how to stop. We'll talk about some productivity moves that you can make to buy you some time back in your day and a real world strategy that keeps your nutrition and your recovery on track, even when you're away from home, right? And finally, because I am obviously a strength coach, right? We're going to talk about how we can, make some training tweaks for those moments when injury or pain still tries to derail our lifting schedule, right? Because that happens all the time. Now, this isn't theory and it's not wouldn't it be nice if this would, no, we're not talking about that. These are tactics that you can use tomorrow when you wake up. So my goal is simple. If you give me this 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, you'll walk away with at least one tool that you can apply before bed right now so that you have a better tomorrow. That's what I want to do. So let's get into it. First up, let's talk about something that sounds boring on paper, but will change the way that you feel every single day. And that's keeping your blood sugar steady from sunrise to sunset. So let's get into that topic. The Blueprint, the Former Athlete Society. I welcome you guys here. Again, if you're unfamiliar with this YouTube channel, who I am, what I do, my name is Adam Ringler. I'm a strength conditioning coach. I've been one for nearly 20 years at the Division I P4 level. And I'm trying to take the same lessons that I teach my current athletes, and I'm trying to re-teach them to all of you. So let's get into our first topic of the day. And I already kind of talked a little bit about it, right? Everyone talks about calories and macros, but almost nobody talks about this. How do you manage your blood sugar from breakfast to bedtime can make or break your energy and your performance. So here's the thing. Most former athletes that I meet, they still eat like they're cramming meals in before class and practice, right? Huge breakfast, random snacks throughout the day, then a monster dinner. And it worked when you were maybe burning 5,000 calories or chasing a ball or grinding through two-a-days. But now that pattern, yeah, it can feel like a roller coaster. You crush a giant morning meal, your insulin spikes, and 2 hours later, you're foggy, yawning, wondering why you need a third cup of coffee. And then you repeat it at night, and you can't figure out why your sleep is restless or why you wake up feeling like you got hit by a linebacker. It's because we're not monitoring our glucose. Glucose isn't just a number on a lab test. It's the fuel gauge for your brain. It's your mood. When you're training sessions, all of these things, right? When your blood sugar spikes high and then drops fast, your body thinks it's going into crisis. Cortisol, goes up. Your cravings kick in, and you end up grabbing whatever's easiest. A lot of times it's chips, it's muffins, maybe it's a half-ate protein bar in the glove box of your car. Been there. And here's the kicker. You don't even have to eat junk for this to happen. A giant bowl of oatmeal loaded with dried fruit can send you on the same ride if it's not balanced with protein or if it's just too much at once in one sitting. So, what do you do instead? Well, you have to spread the work out. So, think of your meals like a steady passes in a game. Instead of a few full court heaves, I try to aim for balanced eating every 3 to 4 hours. Real protein, maybe a moderate amount of quality carbohydrates, maybe some fats to help slow down digestion. So, a handful of almonds, an apple, maybe mid morning. Is a decent thing, right? Chicken and rice and vegetables at lunch, but not a mountain of rice, and maybe some Greek yogurt with some berries in the afternoon, something of that caliber and that extent. These aren't fancy meals, but they're steady fuel that stops you from keeping your blood sugar going up and down like a roller coaster or like a calm river instead of a stormy sea. Now, you don't have to even guess, right? If you're curious, you can always go out and get a continuous glucose monitor for a week just to see how your body responds to certain foods. So there are sort of tech companies out there, tech health, bio companies, if you will, Levels or NutriSense. They make some pretty simple continuous glucose monitors now. And your body will tell you if you're crashing hard mid-afternoon or if you're craving sugar after dinner, and that is your cue. So what I love about this is that it can change how your training goes, right? When your glucose is steady, you've got clean energy for the gym. You don't bonk out halfway through a lift. You recover better because you're not spiking your insulin wildly and wrecking your sleep. And let's be real, steady energy means that you show up better for your family, your job, whatever else that life throws at you, right? I'm not saying never enjoy a big dinner with your friends or, on a Sunday brunch or anything like that. Life's too short to measure every single bite. But if you can build a rhythm of consistent meals during the week, you flatten out those spikes and those dips. You feel more even, mentally sharper, less cranky, more like the athlete that could go all day. So that's your first play in your playbook tonight, right? Keeping your blood sugar steady. So let's shift gears to maybe something that's a little bit less food related, something that's maybe for the people who can't start, the ones who can't finish, and the rare few of us who don't know how to stop. That's my next thing I want to move to in our accountability call. But first, before I do, a couple different things right off from the get-go. If you have yet to like and subscribe and hit the notification to this YouTube channel, take 5 seconds and do that right now. That helps out our algorithm so much. We're trying to get this information to more people, right? I would love, love, love for you to take the moment and just simply do me that favor. You don't understand how much that actually helps us grow what we're trying to build here at the Former Athlete Society. So let's move on to our next question. I think this one's really kind of cool, and it's based off some of the conversations that I've had already. Lazy people generally can't start things, and weak people can't finish things. And the very best people, the most successful people I know, they don't know how to stop. And I see it in almost every single season that I've coached. Now, this line came from a tweet that I posted. It wasn't too long ago, and it stuck with me because it sums up almost every athlete that I've ever coached over all of the years of coaching. So picture the three types of players. First, there's the ones who just can't get going. And maybe they're talented, maybe they've got the build, but you constantly are dragging them to the weight room, reminding them about the workouts, begging them to show up on time and ready to go. They've got all the potential in the world, but potential doesn't actually move the barbell, right? Then there's the middle group, right? This is the group that show up, they punch the clock, and then they leave. They're reliable, yeah, sure. They work hard enough to stay on the roster, but maybe they even start. I've seen that before. But when it comes to closing out a game or finishing a season or digging deep on a brutal conditioning day, they coast, right? They're not lazy. They're comfortable. They never really empty the tank. And finally, the rarest group, the athletes these are the ones I have to rein in, right? They're the ones who finish sprints and want to run extra. They sneak back into the gym for an extra lift. They watch film late at night because they can't get enough. Sometimes these are literally the athletes I told to go home, to rest, to recover because they need that, right? And because their intensity starts to eat into their health, they don't know how to stop. And here's where it gets really interesting for us, right? Us former athletes like myself. When the jersey comes off and the schedule disappears, what type of athlete are you now? Maybe you used to be the unstoppable one, but without a coach or a season or timelines, you're struggling to start. Or maybe you're showing up and you're hitting the gym 3 days a week, but you're not really chasing anything. And listen, I've been there before, right? I've been there myself. After years of structured training, It's easy to slide into that middle zone where you're just active enough, but the old competitive spark, the one that you running extra, uh, lane lines or court touches, right? That's gone, right? And that's still in you. It's somewhere in you. And sometimes we just need a new target, a new outlet. Now, the trick is to balance that because if you're wired like the third group, the ones who can't stop, you can burn out in real life the same way you could in college, right? You work yourself into a grind, right? And you grind yourself down chasing personal records or side hustles and who knows what else, right? And if you're more like the first or second group, you need to manufacture the start or the finish. That might mean signing up for a 5K or hiring a coach, right? Setting a date on a calendar for a strength test. The truth is, all three types of people, they live inside us. We have them all, right? We can be lazy on a Monday, steady but flat on a Wednesday, and obsessive by Friday. Now, the key is noticing which version of you is steering the ship today and then steering it back towards something a little bit more healthy. So you got to ask yourself, which one are you right now? And maybe more importantly, who do you want to be in the next month, the next year, right? Over the course of multiple years? That's not just a question for us athletes. That's a question for anyone, any of you right now that's trying to build a life that still feels like a sport that's worth playing. So, what type of athlete are you right now? That's my question to you. All right, let's pivot. I got something else I kind of want to end up tackling. But before I do, real quick, looking at our analytics, guys, we can get our numbers up. I know it. And if you've gotten anything from our YouTube channel and the Former Athlete Society, I need you to head over there. I need you to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that we can grow this channel a little bit more and get front of more eyes of former athletes that actually need this information because we could all certainly benefit from it. So let's move on to a new topic. Everybody gets the same 24 hours. Here's how I steal extra ones. And it starts for me at 4 a.m. Now, time is the great equalizer. You, me, LeBron James, the busiest CEO on the planet, whether it's Apple or Google or who knows what else, Amazon, I'm trying to think of other companies, I don't know, right? We all get the same 24 hours to work with. What separates people isn't the number of hours they're giving, it's what they choose to do with those hours. And the people who consistently pull ahead, yeah, they're the ones who figure out how to actually make those hours stretch. So for me, the edge starts before the sun even comes up, 4 a.m. Now, you might be like, Adam, that sounds brutal. But lately, it's kind of become my secret weapon. The world is really quiet at 4 a.m. My phone isn't ringing, emails aren't coming in, nobody's asking me for anything, my kids are asleep. It's a pocket of pure focus that belongs entirely right to me. Now, here's what this looks like in practice. The alarm goes off, and yeah, sometimes I'm a little groggy, but I don't linger. I get out of bed, I get my clothes, I bring it down, I splash some cold water on my face, right? I stretch a little bit, I get my coffee sort of percolating, right? I start brewing that coffee, and then I sit down, right? And I sit with the one or two things I actually need to do that day to move the needle. And so it might be programming for the current athletes. It might be writing content for the Former Athlete Society, mapping out a new strength block in Bridge Athletic, right? There's no busy work. There's no email triage I have to do, no scrolling on TikTok or anywhere else. It's just the stuff that matters the most while my mind is sharp and while distractions don't exist, right? And then by the time that people are still fumbling for the first cup of coffee, I've already stacked several wins in my day. Now this creates a ripple effect for me. When I walk into the weight room later that morning, I'm not carrying the stress of unfinished work. I'm lighter, I'm clearer, I'm way more present with the athletes that I work with because I've already done the work. Now, this isn't about some macho grind culture, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the, no rest for anybody. I'm just saying that everybody has to, everybody gets to set their own wake up time. I'm not saying my 4 a.m., you need to replicate that. No, I'm not doing that, right? Some of you might be night owls, and that's fine, right? You have to find your groove at midnight. For me, I'm not a night owl at all. So the principle isn't the hour. It's about carving out in uninterrupted time when you can do your deepest, most meaningful work. And for me, that just happens to be the morning before anybody wakes up in my house. And here's a little side benefit for me, at least, right? Waking up early forces me to pay attention the night before. I can't stay up late watching shows or scrolling on social media or doing anything. So naturally, I have to eat dinner a little earlier. I have to skip late night snacking and I have to get to bed on time, right? That rhythm alone sets me up for the win the next day. right? My sleep is improved. Actually, my recovery is improved. My training and eventually my mood has improved. So if you feel like the day is constantly running you instead of the other way around, you have to look for those hidden pockets of time. So maybe it's an hour before the kids wake up. Maybe it's after they go to bed. Maybe it's a lunch break where you shut your door and you silence every single notification on your device. You have to protect that space like it's sacred because the reality is, it is. The truth is that productivity isn't about cramming more tasks into a crowded day. It's about creating more quiet windows where the important work can actually breathe. Now, for me, that window is 4 a.m. Maybe for you, it's something else. But when you find it, cherish it because when you do, you start to feel like you've finally stolen a few hours back from the chaos. And speaking of protecting your time, right, it helps to actually have the right tools within reach, which brings me to something wildly practical, and it's the way that I carry my daily essentials. So I want to kind of get into that in the next topic. But before I do, real quick, everyone, this is my website. It's adamringler.com. You can join me over there. I talked about it at the beginning of this show. adamringler.com. You can sign up for the blueprint. You can sign, which is forever free. You get that for free. You get that for free over here on Instagram, our community over there. Masterclass and those master plans, and then obviously the Former Athlete Society. Right. So check it out again, real quick for everybody. AdamRingler.com, right there on the screen. Hit it. Okay, let's move on. That kitchen scale that's on your counter, it's useless when you're stuck at a restaurant. So, how do I dial it in? Well, guess what? I bring it everywhere. So, let me be blunt. The tools that you buy to stay on track means nothing if they're sitting at home when you actually need them, right? And I learned this the hard way. Earlier in my coaching career, I'd pack the perfect lunch, I'd set my macros up perfectly, and then I'd end up grabbing random, takeout or snacks at work, right? And I do that because quite frankly, I've left my scale or my shaker bottle or my supplements behind, and then my consistency collapsed the minute that I left the house. Now, I carry all of that stuff with me everywhere I go. I keep a dedicated backpack through Haven Athletic, RIP. They've gone out of business, but great little CrossFit backpack, compartment backpack before the company shut down. But any solid compartment heavy bag will do. Think of your photographer gear bag or something like that. The key is that it's always ready. It's always packed, right? And I think of it kind of like an athlete's travel kit, but for life. So hanging off my Molly strip on the side of it is my Yeti Day Trip lunch bags. Inside of that has electrolytes and vitamins, a couple Yeti containers. I got some of my coffee gear, protein packets, a few backup snacks. It's basically, for me, like a mobile command center for health and performance, right? And here's the point. If I'm heading to a day of coaching, I don't have to wonder whether I can stay on plan. If I need to weigh a quick protein meal at a random cafe or if something gets catered in, sure, I got it. I got my scale, right? If I get stuck in a meeting and can't get lunch until 3, I got a shaker bottle in there. Boom, I'll make a protein shake. It's not glamorous, but it's a game changer because it keeps me on track. Now, people sometimes laugh when they see me hauling this setup everywhere I go. But remember, when you were a college athlete, you wouldn't show up to practice without your shoes or tape or water or whatever else gear that your position required. This is the same mentality for us, right? Former athletes often struggle because they forget that consistency in the real world demands preparation, right? And it's not just about food, it's about having your electrolytes on a hot day when you end up coaching an extra session outside. It can save your training later. Having a coffee mug means that you don't cave and you buy a $4.95 Starbucks or something like that, and then opting up to get a sugary cake pop or something, right? Even the act of carrying this kid around is a mental cue, right? I'm in control of my choices today. So, could you get by without it? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But every time that you rely on chance, you give up a little bit of control. You tell yourself, hey, I'll figure it out. And suddenly you might be 2 to 3 slices into a pizza because that was all that's available, right? So, this bag helps me make better decisions. It's a small tactical move that makes an enormous difference in my life. So, if you're serious about staying consistent, right, especially as a former athlete used to rely on structured environments, don't just buy the tools, bring them with you where you go because your future self will actually thank you when you're standing in a crowded restaurant, scale in hand, quietly hitting your goals while everybody else is guessing. Now, carrying the right gear is maybe one part of the equation, but what happens when your body itself throws a wrench into your plan, like maybe an injury or a nagging strain, something I had recently? How do you adapt your training on the fly? We're going to get into that in the next topic. Now, before I do, real quick, everyone, if you are loving this content, whether you're in the blueprint or you're watching the YouTube replay of our live accountability call, there's something I need you to do right now. I need you to head right here. This is my Instagram handle. I need you to go over there and I need you to give me a like, right? Simply do me that favor. Follow me. It's a public account. Like a post, right? Leave a comment on it. And again, this helps the algorithm and it helps give us the vehicle to get this information in front of more eyes and more former athletes. So, have you strained a muscle? Don't hit pause. Adapt, right? Here's how I keep training through my tricep strain that I recently had on my left tricep without losing any progress. Now, we all know this as former athletes, right? And it's the sad part of what we do. Injuries, yeah, they don't send you a calendar invite. They just show up randomly, right? Without warning. And recently I strained my left tricep. It wasn't a big deal. I'm fine. I'm back training. It's been like a week and a half. And it was one of those little nagging tweaks that doesn't hurt with every movement, but sometimes when I was hitting different movements, I could feel it immediately, sharp pain. Now, here's the key lesson. I didn't shut everything down. I just simply adapted. My program for the day and actually for the week called for some pretty heavy tricep movements, and that clearly would aggravate the strain. So instead of forcing my way through it, risking a bigger setback, I simply just swapped the exercise out for a variation that didn't seem to bother the area. That's what real training maturity looks like. It's not about being reckless and pushing through pain. Listen, I'm not 20 anymore. I can't do that. It's about being agile, flexible enough to change the plan while still keeping the bigger goal alive. Now, I kept blood flow moving in that area with exercises that felt safe. And that's huge because increased blood flow delivers oxygen and nutrients that speed up the healing process. I wasn't just avoiding further damage, I was actually helping the muscle recover. So think of it like driving a car on a detour. You don't just park on the side of the road because the main route is blocked. No, you find another path that still takes you forward towards your destination. And that's how you train through a minor injury. So if you feel a tweak, listen to it, but don't be dogmatic about it. Swap a different movement out, change the angle, lower the load, adjust the tempo. You're still in the fight. You're just making progress a different way. And most importantly, you're still giving the muscle stimulus and circulation that it needs in order to heal. So adaptation is part of the athlete's mindset. And in the long game of training and life, it's what keeps you consistent, keeps you growing, keeps you in the gym when everybody else is sitting at home waiting for good days. Guess what? Good days don't come every single day. So you got to find a way to train through minor irritants like tricep strains and things like that. So I think we're going to wrap up this call today. That's the full slate of today's, former athlete society accountability call. And I just kind of a rundown off the top of my head, right? We gave an opportunity to you, right, to give yourself the grace to enjoy, like the training process for what it is, right? We talked about all of these various topics, right? Bringing your own kits, right? Making sure that you are smart with your training, right? The three different archetypes of who you are, those that have trouble starting versus those that have trouble finishing, those that need extra motivation to reel it in a little bit. All of these topics, whether it's technical, whether it's strategy, whether it's psychology, whether it's nutrition, it's about showing up week after week and being the very best portion and person that you can be. Remember, right? The mission isn't perfection. It's just relentlessness. It's adaptability, it's consistency. And former athletes like you, right? We thrive on that. We need to bring that locker room mentality into everyday life. So whether you're chasing muscle or business goals or just wanted a healthier lifestyle, these accountability costs, these tactics, they keep you in the game for the long haul. So I just wanted to say thanks for sticking with me through all 5 of these topics. Now it's your turn, right? It's not just one thing to listen to it. You actually have to apply it. So which of these strategies are you putting into play this week? Let me know in the comments of this. I want to hear it. So just drop it into the comments below. As always, thank you so much for joining us here in the Former Athlete Society. I will see you guys next call. This should be coming up this Thursday for our Q&A. I'll see you all.